Wife's actions make him think about marriage. My marriage troubles started with a call from the bank. Hello, this is Andrew from Megabank's Fraud Alert team. How are you today? I'm good, Andrew. How about you? I answered, trying to dry off after my shower. We've seen some strange charges on your credit card. Do you have the card with you? I picked up my wallet. Yes, I do. Can you go over some recent charges with me? Sure, let's do it, I said. After confirming my identity, Andrew read out the charges. The newest one is for 2 tickets to an event abroad, he said. I realized someone had gotten access to my card details. After talking it over, my card was canceled, and they promised to send a new one soon. My wife, Amy, worked at the bakery too. We often joked about how we were rolling in dough. I worked nights and went to classes during the day. Our small bakery was run by a boss who believed in promoting from within. After getting passed over for a management spot again, he called us into his office. Bill, Amy, he started, you're both sharp. I want you on my team. I want workers who know the business from the ground up. He leaned against his desk. But you know I had to take money from investors to grow. They want everyone in the front office to have a degree. Amy and I shared a look. We only finished high school. I could have gone for a scholarship, but we got married right after graduation. But we've both worked here since we were 16. Doesn't that matter? Amy asked. It does. I want to help you both become decision makers, not just move you to an office where others decide your future, he replied. He proposed we switch to the overnight shift to help us balance work and school. While I adjusted well to classes, Amy struggled and decided to go back to her old job after a semester. That's why I found myself at the computer at 3 p.m., checking our credit card transactions instead of sleeping before my night shift. Juggling classes, work, and studying wore me out. Amy took care of most daily tasks and supported me by making dinner and packing my lunches with sweet notes. We were a good team. I made breakfast after my shift, and we often shared a quick moment before she went to work. We talked about our money worries and how they delayed starting a family or getting our own place. I felt fortunate to have Amy, who saw a bright future for us if we made some sacrifices. As I looked at the credit card charges, I could easily identify our regular spending. The only charge I didn't remember was an old fee for something called AMDB. Who is AMDB? I wondered. I quickly searched online and was shocked by what I found. AMDB was linked to a site for people looking to connect secretly. Their motto was, "Life is short. Have an affair." I shook my head. Looks like someone was using our card for something sneaky. The idea that someone could make money off secret connections amazed me. I guess there's a way to profit from nearly everything. That night at dinner, I told Amy about the card being canceled and that new ones would arrive soon. "Oh no!" Amy exclaimed. "How did this happen? We are so careful with our card." I shrugged. "Once you share your card info, it can be misused anywhere along the way. We won't be responsible for the bogus charges, but it still impacts us all. I'll check our bills to make sure we aren't paying for anything that isn't ours," Amy said firmly. "I already did," I replied. I wanted to tell her about the strange charge from AMDB, but she spoke first. "AMDB? Yes, Bill, that's mine. It's a fabric store for some curtains I wanted to buy." An uneasy feeling washed over me as I looked at the curtains hanging behind us. "When did you change the curtains? They look the same to me." Amy turned away, her cheeks reddening. "I changed my mind before I put them up and returned the curtains. I'll call AMDB tomorrow about my refund." I dropped my fork, feeling a wave of nausea. "Bill, are you okay?" Amy asked, frowning. "You look pale. Maybe you should call in sick tonight. I can take care of you tomorrow." I stood up, trying to shake off the worry. "No, Amy. You've done enough. I need to go." At work that night, I wasn't very useful. Luckily, my team was experienced and needed little supervision. Normally, I would have appreciated the extra time to work on school, but now it just made me think more about Amy. Is Amy being dishonest? I wondered. Why would someone sign up for an affair? I threw away the lunch she packed, and her note saying, "Love you, Bill. Can't wait until morning," seemed to mock me. For the first time, I didn't go home after work. Instead, I went to the university campus waiting for my first class. Amy called my phone many times, even sending texts asking how I felt. I didn't answer but replied that I was going to the library, then turned my phone off. Students at the university can be divided into 3 groups. The first group is the working students, some a bit older like me, going back to school, and others younger, who attend classes while juggling minimum wage jobs. You could tell us by our tired faces. Next were the kids fresh out of high school. They lived in the dorms, joined sororities and fraternities, and participated in school activities. For many, this was their first time away from home, and some treated it like a long vacation funded by their parents. Then there were the military veterans. They were around the same age as the other students, but seemed much more mature. One tall man, whose face showed signs of his past, spoke slowly yet clearly, showing the sharp mind he developed during his time in the service. There was also a young woman with a ponytail who looked like she could be on a cheer squad. People called her Dead-Eye Jane because she had been injured during her service but remained brave throughout. These veterans had earned their benefits and support from the government through their hard work and sacrifices. They did not tolerate anyone wasting their time. They stuck together and were very outspoken, as I found out when I met my lab partner in organic chemistry. Her name was Ileana. She was tall, almost 6 feet, slender, with bright red hair. As I settled at my lab station, she approached wearing a shirt with an Air Force logo. "Hi, I'm Rose, your lab partner. Everyone calls me Ileana." Hi, Rose. I mean Ileana," I replied, shaking her hand. "My name is Bill. Just so you know, I'm Catholic. Does that count?" Ileana smiled. "Nice to meet you, Bill. I just wanted to check if we're good with everything. If not, we can change partners now." "No problem here. Why do they call you Ileana?" I asked. Ileana sat down and organized her things. She tapped her thigh, which made a strange sound. "I have a prosthetic leg," she said flatly, "so I lean a bit to the left. Get it?" I was surprised but relieved when the teacher arrived, saving me from saying more. The class went on to cover lab rules, tests, expectations, and safety measures. As usual, a few students disrupted the class this time. It was a larger student and his friends who seemed to think it was funny to make noise. Some upperclassmen cast sharp looks their way, clearly annoyed. As Ileana and I walked out of lab, she was focused on her phone and bumped into the bigger student in the hall. He turned around. "Watch where you're going," he snapped at Ileana. She calmly replied, "Sorry, it was just an accident. No need to get upset." His face reddened for a moment. He looked at his friends and said, "This girl isn't anything special." He added, "What's your deal? Ever been mistaken for a boy?" His friends laughed. Ileana tilted her head. "Nope, never mistaken for a boy. How about you? Anyone ever mistake you for a man?" His face flushed again and he took a step closer. "You think you're tough? I'll show you what's what." My heart raced. I thought about stepping in to support Ileana, but hesitated, recalling a past confrontation gone wrong. I noticed movement behind him and took a deep breath, stepping in between them. I said to him, "There are 4 of you and 2 of us. That doesn't seem fair." I paused and added, "You might want to find more friends." His expression darkened. "What? You think you can take on all of us?" I shrugged. "We'll never know because 3 of you left." He turned to see his friends had indeed disappeared. In their place stood a few upperclassmen ready to back us up. A stocky man in a Marine Corps shirt stepped forward. His face showed signs of past struggles. In a strong voice, he asked, "Do you need help?" He pointed at the student. "Is he bothering you?" Ileana stepped forward. "Thanks for the offer, but we don't need any help. He was just leaving." Seeing his chance gone, the student hurried away. That incident was over a year ago. Ileana and I became friends and study partners, sharing most of the same classes. My wife, Amy, didn't like Ileana. I wasn't sure if it was because of Ileana's background or if she thought it was just an act. Amy believed that some women just needed the right man to change their minds. Once I shared Amy's theory with Ileana, who laughed it off. No man ever caused a woman to change sides, but many have led a straight woman to explore. That was back in better days. Today, I sat in class when Ileana sat down next to me. This was a required class in our humanities series called Psychology 103 Interpersonal Relationships, often known as nuts and bolts. Ileana looked at me closely. You look like you've had a rough day. Did something happen? I flinched at her tone and she quickly asked, Wait, you don't have a dog, do you? Before I could respond, our professor walked in, clapping to get our attention before he started writing on the board. Today, we're discussing Chapter 8, Interpersonal Relationships in Traditional Marriages. Some say traditional marriage is on the decline due to changes in society and job opportunities for both men and women. Now, women can be equal to men, but is that good? Will today's casual dating habits affect loyalty or the need for marriage? Many social scientists believe that. He turned back to the board to write a few names. In 1992, writer Dalma Hayek shared stories in her book, The Silent Struggles of Women, about women who did not suffer greatly from affairs. 2 years later, Carol Botwin said that infidelity was a growing trend among women due to their economic strength and independence. I couldn't handle it anymore. I grabbed my books and left the classroom. After class, Ileana found me sitting on a bench outside the student union. She dropped her stack of books next to me and sat down. Okay, what's going on? As I shared my feelings, Ileana opened her laptop and started typing quickly. After I finished, Ileana raised her hand to pause me for a moment. Then she turned her laptop around to show me. She was on a suspicious website. Bill, we need to gather more information. It says here you can sign up for everything from chat rooms to secret meetups. We aren't sure if your wife has done anything. Great, Ileana, I said sadly. My wife might just be talking to people online. That's reassuring. Don't think about changing your major to marriage advice. Honestly, Bill, Ileana replied sharply, if you keep worrying like this, you might as well be in Congress. Listen, you need to find her username and password. It's likely on her phone. Do you know Amy's smartphone password? Amy's smartphone password is 1234, the same as the day she got the phone. Perfect, Bill. Tomorrow, take her phone and put a piece of tape on the battery. She will think it needs charging. Get the SIM card and bring it to me. What will we do then? I asked. We will make a plan when we know more. Ileana closed her laptop. I can't stand dishonesty, she said softly. I've seen so many people get hurt. It seemed like relationships breaking apart was as common as mail arriving. Relationships from a year to decades falling apart. So many people were caught by surprise. Ileana stood up and helped me to my feet. Now cheer up. I'll give you my psych notes. Come on, we have 3 more classes today. Feeling more like a lost soul than a student, I let Ileana lead me to our next class. When I got home from school, Amy's car was in the driveway. I walked in to hear her vacuuming upstairs. I saw Amy's cell phone on the charger on the kitchen counter. I used my chance to unplug it, put tape over her battery contacts, and take out her SIM card. I had just finished when the vacuum stopped, and I heard Amy call out, Bill? Is that you? Are you okay? I'm in the kitchen, Amy, I answered. What are you doing home from work now? Amy rushed down the stairs. Bill, I left work early because I was worried when you didn't come home this morning and you weren't answering my calls. I wanted to make sure you are okay. She touched my forehead. You feel a bit warm. Are you running a fever? No, I'm fine, Amy. Just tired. I'm going to grab a shower and go to bed. Amy smiled at me playfully. Want some company in the shower? I missed you this morning. I was not in the mood. Maybe later, Amy, after I wake up. Right now, I just need to sleep. Amy gave me a quick kiss on the cheek. Okay, Bill, but you owe me. I had no reply as I headed to the shower. That night at work, Ileana arrived with a small guy wearing thick glasses. Did you get her SIM card, Bill? Ileana asked. Better. I got her whole phone. Amy thought something was wrong with the charger, so she handed it to me. Great, Ileana said, giving the phone to the guy with glasses. This is my friend from over there. He works with electronics and computers. The guy with glasses smiled, taking Amy's SIM card and putting it into a gadget before connecting it to her phone. Great. I'm a level 6 expert in cryptology with a master's in electronic engineering and my own consulting business, but what do I get? He does stuff with electronics. Enough bragging, Ileana said. Can you do this, or are you just showing off? Done, he replied, taking out the SIM card and disconnecting Amy's phone. He handed them to me along with a USB stick. Everything you need: passwords, call logs, texts. If it was on the phone, you have it now. Thanks, I said, leading Ileana and the guy to the parking lot. I told my boss I would be in the office doing paperwork and only to disturb me if it was urgent. Steeling myself, I plugged in the USB to my laptop and prepared for the worst. A few hours later, I was exhausted. Every time I thought it couldn't get worse, it did. With the phone info, username, and password, I was able to log into the website as my wife, Amy. I also used her phone info to see all her text history. Not only was Amy chatting online often, but her texts showed she was meeting people around town regularly. Amy followed a pattern of conversations filled with role-playing and themes she had always dismissed before. From her texts, it was clear she was meeting people for various encounters. I couldn't believe it. Amy had always hesitated to be close with me, yet here she was engaging with strangers. It was shocking to see everything laid out. The weight of this realization hit me hard, making my stomach twist. Like a train wreck, I couldn't look away from the screen detailing Amy's interactions. I only noticed how late it had gotten when one of my co-workers knocked on the door to let me know they were leaving for the day. Ileana was waiting for me outside the building before our first class. For the second time, I had skipped breakfast with Amy. Ileana saw it in my eyes before I spoke. "That is so frustrating," she said. "Well, you know the plan now, Bill. What are you going to do?" I sat on a bench, feeling tired, as if I had just run a long race. "Oh, Amy is gone. We're done." I put my hands in my pockets. I just feel so lost. I really thought she cared about me. We've been together for a long time. I had dreamed of a happy life together with a nice home and kids, but my whole time with Amy was based on lies. Ileana gave me a light tap on the shoulder and said, "A relationship built on lies? Isn't that how marriage works sometimes?" I frowned at her before saying, "Right now, Amy and I don't have much, so there's not much to fight over. It frustrates me that Amy can just walk away without any consequences, while I feel foolish. Bill, trust me. Amy will regret her choice when she finds out you know." I looked at Ileana. Sure, she might be upset about being caught, but what does that matter? In a few months or a year, she'll move on and be with someone else. I'll be the one left feeling foolish. I wish there was a way to help her see the results of her choices without it going too far. Ileana thought for a moment and said, "Let's outsmart her." "Outsmart her?" I asked, confused. Ileana's eyes lit up with ideas. "Bill, you've known Amy forever. What scares her most? What are her deepest fears? Aging?" "Losing her looks?" I considered her words. "She is afraid of gaining weight." "Weight?" Ileana echoed, her excitement growing. "Yes, it's a big deal for her," I explained. "Amy's family has struggled with weight, and she faced teasing as a kid. It's a major insecurity." Ileana nodded, understanding. "I see. That sounds like something we can work with." 2 days later, I was getting ready in the bedroom after my night shift when I heard Amy from the bathroom. "Ugh!" she exclaimed. A moment later, Amy walked out. "Bill, can you check the scale? It says I gained 4 pounds. It must be broken." I knew the scale was working because I had set it to show 4 pounds more. "Amy, the scale is fine," I said, lying. "I even lost a pound." As Amy went back into the bathroom, I quickly stepped off the scale just as it returned to 0. "Bill, do I look heavier in this?" she asked, adjusting her clothes. "What, in this room?" I replied, avoiding her question. "That is not what I meant. You know that," she snapped. I didn't respond, so she tried again. Standing in the bathroom doorway, she asked, "You don't think I've gained any weight, do you, Bill?" Normally, I would reassure her, but not this time. I shrugged and said, "Amy, a few extra pounds just means there's more of you to appreciate." That was not the answer she wanted. She shut down the conversation and went back into the bathroom. As I put on my shoes, I smiled to myself, thinking, let the games begin. The week continued in a similar way, with Amy looking for compliments while I carefully turned her comments around, suggesting she seemed fuller. Changing her food choices was tedious, but watching her doubt herself felt rewarding. I even started calling her Butterball. It was a nickname that brought back good memories for her, but also reminded her of those childhood taunts. Meanwhile, Ileana was keeping an eye on Amy's online activity and phone messages through a device we had access to. After a class midweek, Ileana shared what she found out about Amy. She's still in those chat rooms every night, but it seems like she's not enjoying them as much. I shrugged to show I wasn't too worried. I've been filtering her messages, only letting through the more outrageous ones. I even pretended to be a guy a few times and complimented her on her size. Pretty smart, I said. Not any smarter than what she's doing to you, Ileana replied as we went off to class. That Friday night at work, I got a call from Ileana. I thought you'd want to know that Amy set up a date for tonight. I was angry. Oh, what a surprise. I can't believe she would do that. Don't worry. I took care of it. I sent someone else to meet her date instead. I could hardly keep from laughing. What do you mean? You arranged for someone else to go in her place? Not just anyone, Ileana explained, giggling. We sent in someone really tall who definitely made an impression. I burst out laughing. How did Amy's date react? You might think he'd be shocked, but surprisingly, they ended up leaving together. It seemed like they were both having a good time. Well, at least someone is enjoying themselves, I said. What kind of wild people are on that website anyway? Your friend Amy, for one, Ileana replied. I winced. Good point. Speaking of Amy, what happened with her? Amy showed up a bit late, but by then the others had left. She lingered for about an hour, texting a lot, which I blocked. I guess she figured out she had been stood up. Couldn't happen to a better person, I said, noticing one of my co-workers waving at me. I said my goodbyes and hung up. In the second week, I was trying to catch some sleep before my night shift when I woke up to find Amy next to me. Glancing at the clock, I saw it was early evening. I had about 2 hours to go. Amy and I hadn't been close in over a week, the longest time ever for us. She must have really missed being together. I'm sorry to wake you, Bill, Amy said as she rested her head on my chest. I've just missed us so much. Amy, I replied. Can we change positions? I can't breathe well. Amy suddenly rolled away from me, looking frustrated. Just handle it on your own, she said as she left the room. Guess not, I thought, turning over to get a bit more sleep. Later that week, Ileana knocked on my door with a small, much older woman who wore a vest filled with pins and sewing tools, along with a tape measure. She had reading glasses perched on her nose. Ileana hurried past me, leading the woman into the house. Bill, this is my friend, Ileana said, pointing to the older lady. She is a seamstress from the University Theater. She has offered to help us. Once the older woman couldn't hear us, Ileana leaned in and said, her son had a tough time after a bad divorce. I was still confused. What does that mean for us? Ileana waved her hand as she headed to the bedroom. I was amazed when we entered. Amy's clothes were spread out on the bed. The older lady was working quickly, snipping and sewing with impressive speed. Ileana explained, she's just fixing some of Amy's clothes. Some buttons are loose and could pop off during the day. Others are being adjusted to make the outfits fit better. Will this help? I asked, watching the seamstress work. Ileana just smiled at me. The next day, Amy woke me up as soon as she got home, and she was in tears. Bill, it was terrible, really terrible, Amy said, burying her head on my shoulder. I was at a meeting, and when it was my turn to speak, my buttons popped off my slacks and 3 from my blouse. Everyone laughed. She wiped away her tears. The supervisor made a joke about my eating habits. It was so embarrassing. I patted her on the shoulder. Amy, I'm sure he was just joking. Why don't you wear something else? You have many clothes to choose from. This only upset her more. I can't fit into my clothes anymore. Nothing fits. So what, Amy? Just pick something new to wear. That wasn't the answer Amy wanted to hear. She pushed away from me and left the room angrily. Was I being unkind? I didn't bring up that Amy had been going on chat rooms and arranging dates during this time. Luckily, her dates had not gone well, especially when Ileana's friends from the university came over. Unlike before, all of Amy's other dates left quickly when the friends introduced themselves. The big moment came near the end of the 3rd week on Thursday. Ileana introduced me to a man who was very handsome, tall, with great features. As we shook hands, Ileana said, "He is from the university acting group. He'll be Amy's date tonight." I pulled my hand back and stared at Ileana. "Don't worry, Bill," Ileana said, playfully touching my shoulder. "He is also with the LGBTQ group." I felt relieved. "Thank goodness," I said, glancing up at this impressive guy. "If I weren't straight, I would be interested." The man smiled and said, "Sorry, I don't date anyone who is married." Ileana laughed at us. "Okay, let's drop this conversation. Bill, I sent Amy his pictures to get her interested. I've also been chatting online as him for the past few days." She pointed to the guy. "They will meet tonight, and I'll send you the audio from their conversation." The recording from that night was hard to listen to. Amy kept trying to suggest they go to a different, more private place. She seemed eager for his attention. The man continued to reject her, saying plainly that he wasn't interested. I felt embarrassed as Amy insisted she wasn't overweight and tried to get him to change his mind. The conversation ended with the man making a hurtful comment about her weight, suggesting she change her lifestyle and reach out later. The audio finished with Amy leaving the table in tears. I listened to the recording twice before I had to shift my focus to another issue. On Friday afternoon at the library, I finally had a chance to chat with Ileana. "How was Amy this morning?" Ileana asked as we sat in a study room. "She looked bad," I replied. Her eyes were all red like she had been crying. "She wanted to go visit her mom this weekend, but we have that class trip to the zoo tomorrow. I feel like she just wants to distract herself." Ileana took out a duplicate of Amy's phone. "I doubt that, Bill. I checked her calls and texts while waiting for you. They're all to her mom. From what I read, it looks like her mom has planned a full weekend of baking and shopping together. A real mother-daughter time." I made a doubtful noise. Ileana shook her head. "She's just trying to heal from what happened. When people feel hurt, they often want to return to what's familiar." I waved my hand. "All right, let's set aside Amy for now and focus on our ideas for this English paper. What's the topic again?" Ileana looked down at her phone and began writing on the whiteboard. "The topic is, act like a man of thinking. Think like a man of action. We have to define and analyze that." "That sounds simple," I said. "It means don't take any action." Ileana turned to me. "Okay, Yoda, explain that." "Thinking people don't act much. So if you act like one, you'll just sit around thinking. On the other hand, if you think like someone who acts, you won't be doing much at all. So really, the saying means you're stuck." "Bill, you're mistaken. That phrase is about planning and discipline. Think like a man of action means you don't just dream, you make real plans. And act like a man of thinking means you don't jump in without thinking. It's like that saying, if you don't plan, you plan to fail." I shook my head and disagreed. We ended up arguing about it for nearly an hour. Finally, Ileana said, "I need a break. Let's go outside." "You can't smoke here," I reminded her as I followed her to the back exit. "I'll be fine. I know no one checks this door anymore," she replied. We stepped out behind the library next to a dumpster and some loud air units. Ileana took out a cigarette and lit it. I pretended to cough and waved away the smoke. Ileana frowned. "Come on, Bill. This is one of the few spots where we won't be seen." I rolled my eyes. "You know the campus has a no-smoking policy." She took a deep drag. "What are you going to do? Report me for ruining the trees?" I was about to say something when someone suddenly came out from behind the dumpster. It was Letterboy, holding a baseball bat. "Well, if it isn't the usual suspects," he said, swinging the bat lazily. Ileana quickly stepped on her cigarette and adjusted her purse. "Leave us alone," she warned. Letterboy pointed the bat at us. "I've been waiting to catch you two alone for a long time." He stepped closer, getting ready for trouble. Thinking fast, I pointed behind him and shouted, "Look over there!" while waving my arms. "Help! Over here!" He hesitated and turned to look. It was a classic trick. In the past, I would have run, but not today. Instead, I yelled, "Run, Ileana! Run!" and jumped at him, trying to tackle him from behind. I thought this move would work, but what they don't tell you in movies is that if your opponent has a lot more strength than you, he can easily throw you off. I found myself on the ground as Letterboy stood over me, holding the bat. I tried to move, but my body wouldn't cooperate. Just before the air handler turned on, covering all sounds, I heard loud bangs. Suddenly, Letterboy fell, holding his leg. I looked up to see Ileana ready to defend us, holding a gun that was jammed. She was shaking it and grabbing the slide with her left hand. As the noisy air handler quieted down, I heard Letterboy groan while Ileana shouted, "I can't believe this is stuck!" I got onto my hands and knees. "Ileana, what happened?" Letterboy yelled. "She shot me!" Ileana, frustrated, walked towards us. "No kidding, I shot you. What were you thinking bringing a bat here?" She shook the gun at him. "You're lucky it jammed. I should have had better luck." Letterboy looked surprised. "How am I going to play now?" Ileana tapped his leg. "You only have a small scratch. It looks worse than it is." He looked down at the blood on his pants and noticed it wasn't getting worse. I had an idea. Scooting closer to Letterboy, I said, "Give me your wallet." He looked shocked. "Are you robbing me? First you shoot me and now this?" "No, I'm going to help you," I said. "If we tell someone about this, you might face big trouble, like charges. A good kid like you will have a hard time." Letterboy pulled out his wallet and tossed it to me. "All right, just take it, and let's forget this happened." I handed the wallet to Ileana and took back the gun. "It's not that easy. You need to go to the doctor for that wound. They have to report injuries like this." He began to panic. "What am I going to do?" I lightly touched his cheek. "You need to listen to me. Wait 20 minutes, then call for help. When they come, say you were trying to get back to the field and some guys jumped you. You didn't want to give up without a fight, and during the struggle, you got shot." A look of relief washed over his face. Yeah, that sounds good. Thanks, man. I won't forget this." I stood up. "You should forget it, but I'm sure you'll think of yourself as a hero." I pointed at him. "So wait 20 minutes. Got it?" He nodded, and I noticed that Ileana looked puzzled as I grabbed her arm and led her toward my car. On the drive home, Ileana was furious when I took apart the gun and threw the pieces out the window. I also damaged the gun so it couldn't lead back to us. I tossed the cash from the wallet out too and tossed the empty wallet in an alley. The ride was quiet, which made Ileana even more upset once we got to my house. "What was that about?" she yelled, clearly angry. "Why are you helping him? He attacked us. It was self-defense." I gently pushed her back. "Ileana, remember why you moved here after everything you went through?" She was taken aback. "Of course, Bill. This is one of the few places that allows all kinds of people to love freely. Back where I'm from, it's different. But don't change the subject." "Ileana," I said gently, "the people you respect have some strange views on self-defense." She looked confused, so I continued. "In this state, you can't just use force to protect yourself. You have to try to leave the situation before using violence or self-defense items. If someone breaks into your home, you're expected to get away." "That's ridiculous," she shouted. I shrugged. "Did you have permission for the gun?" "I'm surprised they don't make you get a license to carry that around," Ileana said. Ileana shook her head. "I applied for it twice. They rejected me both times without even looking at my reasons." I nodded. "So, Ileana, you were using a gun without a license." "But Bill," I raised my hand to stop her. "Listen, you never tried to leave. We're carrying an illegal gun and shot someone without warning. He only had a baseball bat. You would have faced worse consequences than he would." I shook my head. "Even if the DA didn't decide to charge you, the school has a strict rule about guns on campus. You would be expelled, lose your government aid, and any other support you have as a student." "I can't believe this," Ileana said, throwing her hands up. "Are you sure?" I smiled slightly. My late parents believed in peace and community. They were lawyers who helped write the state laws on this. We didn't have much money because they always fought for what they believed in. "So, what do we do now, Bill?" I suggested. "You should shower to make sure there's no residue from the gun. I'll wash your clothes to clean them properly." Ileana went straight to the bathroom. She was tall, and I couldn't help but admire the details of her prosthesis. Suddenly, I felt bad for my earlier thoughts. Ileana had faced much bigger challenges than I had, and I felt weak in comparison. She was supporting me while I should have been stronger. Her words about thinking and acting like a real man stuck with me. "Bill, are you staring?" I snapped back to reality. No, Ileana. I was just appreciating your leg." She tapped her prosthesis lightly. Yeah, it's really advanced technology. They gave you options? That must have been really important, I said. Ileana laughed softly. Are you sure you're not trying to get me to change? Yes, because I was planning for my wife to have trouble and arrange for someone to confront us, just so I could see you. That makes total sense. She laughed as she reached the bathroom door and handed me her socks. Bill, you were brave to jump in like that. It might not have been the best idea, but it was brave. What would you have done if I hadn't had the gun? With my arms full of her clothes, I replied playfully, Honestly, I was planning to just run away. Ileana looked surprised. You're not exactly the sporty type. You think you could have outrun him? As I walked toward the laundry room, I chuckled. I didn't need to outrun him. I just had to be quicker than you. The next morning, I met Ileana at the zoo. After the excitement of the day before, I felt exhausted and called in sick to work for the first time. Today, Ileana and I had a project for psych class that involved observing how parents acted with their kids in an outdoor setting. We would watch families with small children closely, seeing how parents responded to their surroundings. After an hour at the monkey house, Ileana, holding the video camera, turned to me. Bill, this isn't working. There are many families here, but it's too busy and noisy. We are just two people in a crowd. I agreed. So we walked around until we found a better spot at the African painted dog exhibit. There were several of these playful dogs, and a small group of children nearby was amazed by what they were doing. We started our observations, and soon it became clear that reactions differed by gender. While Ileana observed, both mothers and fathers smiled back at their kids proudly. When I watched, mothers quickly gathered their children protectively, while fathers stood in a way that seemed defensive. A few fathers expressed their confusion and frustration at my presence. Luckily, Ileana intervened and explained things to calm down the more upset individuals. After a few hours, we took a break, eating snacks from the concession stand while we watched the dogs. Ileana, I'm done, I said, throwing the wrappers in the trash. Ileana glanced at her watch. We still have a few hours. We need at least a dozen more observations for our project. No, Ileana. I'm done with the situation involving Amy. Remember our topic for that English comp paper? Sure, Ileana replied. Think like a man of action. Act like a man of thought. Yeah, well, you were right. And I've been doing the opposite. I've been focused on what to do against Amy, which is a waste of time for both of us. I looked at Ileana. I'm sorry I dragged you into it, but I see I need to move on and focus on what I truly want. Ileana tossed her juice box into the trash can before responding. No worries, Bill. It's your choice. It's a shame, though. I had some solid ideas for how to deal with your wife, Amy. I shook my head. Remind me never to challenge you or your friends. Thanks, but you can save your ideas for something else. That's for next semester, Bill, Ileana said with a smile, then got serious. What do you really want? What are you going to do? I gestured to the parents and children nearby. I'm looking for a normal family, a wife, kids, grandparents, the whole idea. Ileana pointed to a young mother our age with an older woman, likely the grandmother, trying to lift a wiggly toddler so he could see the African painted dogs better. Be careful, Ileana said quietly to the mother and child. That little one might fall. Suddenly, in an instant, the toddler grabbed the railing. He slipped from his mother's arms and went over the edge. I gasped as I saw him drop more than 10 feet into the area with the wild dogs. The mother screamed. Ileana and I, along with everyone else, rushed to the railing to see the boy lying in the dirt below. The child sat up and cried while the wild dogs, initially surprised, began to gather themselves. People started calling for help on their phones, and others ran to find a zoo employee. Those dogs might scare that kid, a man next to me said, covering his daughter's eyes. Ileana started looking for something in her purse. I need something to help, she said. The dogs were growling and moving closer to the child, who was crying and trying to reach for the railing. I spotted a metal trash can and threw it over the railing, aiming for the lead dog. The can missed the animals but landed between the crying toddler and the pack. The dogs were startled for a moment, but then they resumed their approach toward the frightened boy. Where are the zoo staff? Ileana yelled, glancing past the crowd. The lead dog was only a few feet from the child now. I thought, I have to act quickly, and climbed onto the railing. Ileana grabbed my pant leg. What are you doing? She asked. I shook her off. No time to think, Ileana. I need to do something. With that, I jumped over the railing. Ileana was calling for help as I fell toward the cries of the child and the barking dogs. When I was young, my mom wouldn't let us watch violent movies, so she rented Mary Poppins instead. My brother and I didn't like the songs, but were amazed when Mary floated down with her umbrella. The next day, we tried to recreate that moment by climbing out the attic window with our dad's umbrellas. Of course, it didn't work, and we fell. My brother got hurt more seriously, and I limped around for weeks. As I landed in the African painted dog area, that fall reminded me of my childhood mishap. I hit the ground hard. When I pushed myself up, I found myself face to face with the lead dog. We stared at each other for a brief moment before he lunged. I ducked, and he only caught a bit of my ear. I crouched down to protect myself. I heard a sharp yelp and saw the lead dog step back. Suddenly, a shoe hit it in the side. I looked up to see Ileana throwing her purse at the dog closest to me. "Back away!" she yelled, waving her fist. Turning to the crowd, she called out, "Come on! Help him!" A moment later, many things were flying through the air. Shoes, juice boxes, and other items were thrown as the crowd followed Ileana's lead. The dogs scattered, giving me the chance to get to my feet and reach the crying toddler. My ankle hurt, slowing me down as I picked up the child and headed toward what looked like a door. The scared child bit me twice as I tried to get past the dogs surrounding us. Unfortunately, the crowd ran out of things to throw and the dogs circled me like a pack. These dogs are known to take down large animals, and they easily dodged my kicks. I felt their pressure as they drew closer, one even grabbing my shirt. I spun around to shield the toddler while trying to keep the dogs at bay. I wish I had a big stick, I thought, kicking at the snapping dogs. Then, like a miracle, something dropped right in front of me. It was Ileana's prosthetic leg. She had thrown it to me as an improvised weapon. I shifted the child to my other arm, who bit me again. I took Ileana's leg and started swinging it at the dogs. I managed to create a space to get closer to the door, hoping it would lead us to safety. After a few hits, the dogs started to stay back, giving me a moment to reach the door. I pulled on the handle. Of course, it was locked. "Where are the zoo staff?" I called out to the crowd. I felt myself getting weaker. "Open the door!" I shouted, struggling to keep the child safe while holding off the dogs. As I backed away from another snapping mouth, I nearly tripped over a trash can lying on its side. I tried to use it as a barrier, but the dogs were persistent. "I need something," I thought, searching for help, but nothing fell. Then I spotted the fire extinguisher near the door, just as one of the dogs managed to nip at me. I threw Ileana's leg at the nearest group of dogs, which made them back off, giving me a few seconds to put the toddler down and block him with the trash can. Quickly, I grabbed the fire extinguisher and pulled the pin. Suddenly, I felt sharp teeth on my back and stumbled. I turned over while holding the handles tight. "Come on! Let's do this!" I shouted, spraying the dogs. Luckily, the fire extinguisher released a big cloud. The dogs ran in all directions. I crawled in front of the trash can to shield the child. Leaning against it, I aimed the extinguisher outward. My vision blurred from sweat running down my face. Spraying in small bursts, I said, "Come on, let's play." Suddenly, the door behind me flew open. A group of people in protective suits surrounded me, spraying water everywhere. The last thing I remember was someone stepping on my foot as everything faded to black. I woke up in a hospital bed, coughing. Ileana was nearby with a laptop. She put it down and got me a glass of water. As I drank, Ileana said, "You look rough. How are you feeling?" "I feel terrible," I replied. "How's the child?" Ileana shrugged. "He's shaken but okay. His family has been checking in every 30 minutes. She started dialing on her phone. "Hello? Yes, it's Ileana. The child's hero is awake." After a pause, she said, "Okay, no problem." She put her phone away and looked at me. "Bill, that was the craziest thing I've seen. Did you think you could talk to the dogs?" Though her tone was serious, I could tell she was just letting out her stress. "You were so injured when they brought you in. I thought you might not make it." I tried to smile. Maybe I almost didn't. But I'm back now. Her expression softened at that. When my time comes, I hope it's calm, not scary for my family. Ileana held back a smile. I bet you wish you'd had my gear. I could have handled things much better than just spraying the dogs. I sat up a little, grinning back at her. Honestly, you with gear would scare me more than those dogs. Now, if it had been someone else in charge, it might have been a different story. Ileana pretended to be shocked. I knew it. You like that one-eyed girl. I tried to shrug it off. Yeah, me and every other guy around. Ileana smiled, so I knew we were okay. Don't forget the women who admire her, too. Sadly, she seems to spend time with your friends. Too bad. I waved Ileana off, but her comment lingered. I never expected that, she said, then paused. Maybe she didn't see it coming, at least not from her left side. But hey, you might have a chance. You're a hero now. Everyone's talking about you. She went to grab her laptop. Sunday? It's Sunday? How long have I been here? Has anyone talked to Amy? Ileana returned and placed her laptop on the bed. Yes, it's Sunday afternoon. You've been here since Saturday. The doctors took good care of you, making sure you didn't get any infections. Those dogs, I mumbled. Ileana laughed. The bites weren't a problem. Those dogs are healthy. It was actually the kids' bites that caused the infection. Didn't you ever take first aid? I rolled my eyes. My parents didn't let us join scouting. They thought it was too serious. I tried to sit up more, but felt all the tubes in my arms. I can't blame the little one. I was scared. He must have been too. Besides, no good deed goes unpunished. Has anyone reached Amy? Can you let her know what happened? Ileana frowned. I gave the staff her contact info. They haven't reached her yet, but left a lot of messages. Your phone got broken during the incident, so I don't know if she has called. Ileana then turned her laptop screen toward me. It was a news site with a picture of me on the floor with a dog. The headline read, Kid Encounter at Zoo. I waved my hand. And this is what's killing newspapers? Ileana went to another site, showing me with the boy in my arms. Man flees to save child, it read. Please stop, Ileana. Just stop, I groaned. She kept typing. Just one more. This is my favorite. This news site showed me holding the frightened child with my shirt torn. The large letters read, Man stops dogs in encounter. Please, no more, I begged as Ileana continued typing. Just then, there was a knock at the door. A young man in nice clothes, along with an older gentleman, entered the room. They looked like the boy's father and grandfather. The father hurried to my bed. Sir, he began. Please call me Bill, I interrupted. The young man glanced at the older gentleman before continuing. Okay, Bill. I don't know how to express my gratitude for what you did for my boy. If you ever need anything from a ride to support you, can count on us. You always have a place at our table. He tried to shake my hand, but the tubes made it tricky. The grandfather stepped forward and squeezed my shoulder. Turning to his son, he said, We will be forever grateful for what this man did for my grandson. I believe Bill's actions deserve more than just thanks. He then turned to me. What do you do? I gave them a brief overview of my school and work, leaving out my personal struggles. The grandfather listened closely, then rubbed his chin. I've heard of your bakery, Bill. It is a respected place, and they will be lucky to have someone like you in charge. He took out a business card from his suit pocket and set it on the dresser next to me. However, if you ever think about a change, please call me. He tapped the card. There is always space in the company for skilled people. My door is always open to you. With that, the grandfather spread his arms wide. We will leave you to rest now. I apologize that my wife and daughter couldn't be here. My wife is with my grandson, and my daughter is resting, feeling guilty about what happened. I hope you can accept an invitation to a more comfortable place soon. I look forward to it, I replied. With that, they left the room. Ileana shook her head. Okay, Bill, I'm going to leave. The hospital gave me some crutches, but they are tiring. I will see you tomorrow. And just so you know, you owe me a pair of shoes. You mean one shoe, I joked as Ileana playfully waved her hand at me. I laid back on my bed, smiling as the pain medication began to work, and Ileana walked out of the room. Monday morning was quiet. I wanted to leave and felt well. Of course, the medicine might have played a big role in how good I felt. Amidst my thoughts, I was worried about where Amy was. My boss had called earlier. He saw news reports and video from someone's phone. He told me he was proud of me and that I could take all the time I needed. Ileana came in on her crutches around 10 a.m. after the first class. When she sat down, I asked her, "Ileana, can you please do me a favor and see if you can find Amy?" "I can't believe this," Ileana huffed. "I give you my all, and now I'm supposed to find her too?" Just then, Amy walked into the room, still in her bakery uniform. She rushed to my bedside and hugged me tightly. "Oh my goodness, Bill, I'm so sorry. How are you?" She pulled back, looked me over, then hugged me again. "This is so upsetting. I just found out from our boss what happened. I came right from work. I didn't even stop to change." I looked at her, confused. "Didn't you get any of the messages from the hospital?" Amy stood up straight, her cheeks flushing with frustration. "No, they had the wrong last digit on both our home and cell numbers." "That's odd," I thought, as Amy continued talking about how she and her mom had baked some of my favorite pies. She thought I was at work Sunday night and assumed I had gone straight to class again that morning. "Bill," Amy said, "I called your cell so many times and sent lots of texts." I glanced over at Ileana. She suddenly looked up at the ceiling. I realized who might have given the wrong number to the hospital staff. Amy looked at Ileana and gave a weak smile. "Thank you for visiting, Ileana. I'm sure you have other things to do now." Ileana waved it off. "Class is over." "No problem, I can stay a while." Amy and Ileana stared at each other until a knock at the door broke the silence. An older man in a wrinkled suit entered. His badge showed he was with law enforcement. After introducing himself as a Metro detective, he began to speak. "Sorry to interrupt your recovery. What you did with that kid at the zoo was amazing." He paused, then turned to Ileana. "Having you both here saves me a trip. I'm looking into a robbery that occurred behind the university library on Friday." The detective took out a notebook and pen from his coat. "The ID system at the university shows you both were at the library around the time of the incident. It doesn't record exit times. Can you remember when you left, or if you saw or heard anything unusual?" My mind was a bit hazy, but the medication made it hard to think clearly. Ileana quickly answered. "We were there for about an hour. Then we went to Bill's house. We were working on ideas for an English paper." The detective nodded as he wrote in his notebook. I looked at Amy. Her face was red and her jaw clenched. The detective asked me, still writing, "Anything to add?" I nodded before realizing he wasn't looking at me. Then I found my voice. "That sounds about right." He closed his notebook and put it back in his coat pocket. "Thanks for your help. This is usually a quiet campus, so I doubt we'll dig too deeply into what seems to be a one-time event, but we have to follow our process. The provost and chief are close friends, so we will follow through." I nodded. He looked at all of us, handed over a business card, and said, "If anything comes to mind, call me. Get well soon." Amy walked him to the doorway, watching as he left. After a moment, she turned and marched over to Ileana. She reached out, tugging sharply at Ileana's hair. "Ouch!" Ileana exclaimed, rubbing her head. "What was that for?" Amy came over to my bed and held up the strand of red hair. "You allowed this to happen in our home?" she asked quietly, her voice shaking. "I was away, and I trusted you." "Amy," I started to say. Amy let the hair drop from her hand and stepped back, clearly upset. She raised her hand toward Ileana in frustration. Ileana lifted her crutch defensively, blocking Amy's movement. She adjusted her grip and pressed the crutch gently against Amy's waist, causing her to step back and catch her breath. Ileana moved the crutch downward, catching Amy's ankle, before sweeping upward, which made Amy fall to the ground. As soon as Amy hit the floor, Ileana was above her, the crutch near Amy's neck. "You want to go, chicken?" Ileana challenged. "I grew up with 5 brothers, so I know how to handle myself." Amy struggled. "I am not big." Ileana stood up off Amy, pointing her crutch at her like a sword. "You think you're not? Maybe compared to a big farm animal. But whatever you think, just keep your hands to yourself." I stared in surprise at the 2 women, feeling like I was watching something terrible happen. Amy sat up, rubbing her stomach, then looked at me. "We are done, Bill." She turned her gaze to Ileana. "This is crazy." "Watch out," Ileana said playfully. "Don't compare me to your past." Amy's face turned red. "You can have her, but you're going to regret this." Amy tried to pull off her wedding ring. "What's wrong?" Ileana teased. "Need some help with that? Maybe some snacks could do the trick." Amy stormed out of the room. I was still stunned by the whole thing. Ileana sank back into her chair. "Well, Bill, I thought that went well," she said. Finally, I found my voice. "Ileana, why did you do that? Why not tell her nothing happened, or let me explain?" Ileana shrugged. "You were going to end things anyway, right?" I nodded. "So this just speeds things up." "Okay, but what was with the comments about Amy? She's not out of shape." Ileana smiled. "Oh, come on, that was just some fun teasing. She needs to feel a little hurt. Are you going to tell her you know about her other dates?" "Nope." I shook my head. "Amy probably thinks she has a secret. I'll keep quiet about it." "So it's all over except for the talking?" I sighed. "And the lawyers?" I looked at Ileana. "Still, I wish this could have been avoided. I miss home-cooked meals." Things went downhill fast. 2 days later, Amy served me divorce papers, even while I was in the hospital, which felt really inconsiderate. I was released from the hospital at the end of the week. When I got home, I found all of Amy's things were gone. The electric and water were off, and she had canceled our cable, internet, and my cell phone. The bank accounts weren't empty, but there wasn't much left. Amy had taken half. Convincing the landlord I could pay the rent on my own was tough. We had been there forever on a month-to-month basis. I should have moved to a smaller, cheaper place, but that would have required money for the first and last month's rent and a security deposit, all of which I didn't have. Plus, with all my things, I lacked the time and resources for a move. Getting the utilities back on in my name was a hassle and drained my cash. Balancing classes, schoolwork, night shifts, and everyday life was exhausting. Deep down, I knew I couldn't stay with Amy any longer, but I missed her. We had shared a big part of my life together. I missed having someone to come home to, not to mention the practical things she did, like shopping and managing bills. To cope, I started using paper plates to avoid washing dishes. A few times I bought new socks and underwear. It was easier than doing laundry. Adjusting to the loss of Amy's income was tough. I took on Sunday shifts at the bakery to make ends meet, but it affected my sleep and study time. Amy didn't seem to care. Her divorce demands showed I needed legal help. Ileana introduced me to her friend, a former lawyer who specialized in family law. She agreed to represent me and allowed me to make payments. "Bill, your wife is very upset," the lawyer said as we sat in her office. "I've just met with Amy's lawyer. She wants alimony for 3 years, reimbursement for her tuition, and half of everything related to your education. Plus, she wants a share of any future salary increase." "Wow," I said. "Does Amy want everything? She quit her job without notice. How is this my fault?" The lawyer leaned back. "This is a no-fault state, which usually supports the spouse who helped with the household. Amy's requests aren't unusual. Think of a partner who supported the other during school, helping them succeed. Can someone just ignore the partner who helped them along the way? Doesn't the spouse who supported them through hard times deserve to share in the success?" I threw my hands up. "When we were together, everything I had was welcome to Amy, and she knew it. If she wants to leave, why can't we just split our things and go our separate ways? Are you open to marriage counseling? Maybe a chance to get back together?" I jumped in my seat. "No." The lawyer laughed a little. "I thought not. I asked your wife's attorney anyway. He said he had his orders from Amy and wouldn't change them. He mentioned something about Amy being away. It seems he's not even in touch with her." "What, is Amy hiding out somewhere?" The lawyer shrugged. "Doesn't matter. I can manage most of the requests easily. No kids and not many assets. It should be quick if we need a judge." "Amy claims to be very religious," I said. "Tell her it's the right thing to give back and not hold on to what she shouldn't." The lawyers met a few more times, not accomplishing much, but running up my legal fees. So 3 months later, I found myself sitting in the courthouse outside a room labeled Family Matters. I didn't know how much longer I could keep running on empty. Just when I thought I saw light at the end of the tunnel, something else went wrong. The transmission in my car broke. Without time or money to repair it, I had to take the bus, which required leaving earlier and staying later for both work and school. Ileana gave me rides when she could, but she lived on the far side of town. The family of the boy from the zoo called me every week to ask how I was doing and wanted to meet up. But there always seemed to be a big assignment or paper to finish. I could have asked them for help, but it didn't feel right. I thought about it a lot, especially when bills piled up. Each time I hesitated, feeling like I would be pushing them. "Bill! Bill!" Jag, my lawyer, called out to shake me from my thoughts. "I have good news and bad news," she began. "The good news is we are first on the schedule." She paused, making me curious about the bad news. "Well, Bill, we didn't get the best judge for your case," Jag said carefully. "What do you mean by not the best?" I asked. Jag took a moment, struggling to find the right words. "Bill, just get ready. Our judge is known for being very supportive of women's rights. She also has a strong viewpoint on dividing assets, which hasn't always been fair." I stood up from my seat. "If it weren't for bad luck, I'd have no luck at all." I sighed, running my hand through my hair. What happened to karma? The idea that good deeds lead to good results? Ever since I got into this tough situation, things have been upside down. Sometimes I wish I had just let everything be. Jag patted my shoulder. "Stay strong. It will be over soon." I pointed towards the courtroom door. "Shall we go in to see the judge?" Jag stopped me with her arm. "Bill, it might be better if you stay here. I don't want you to say anything that could complicate things." "I can behave, you know." Jag smiled a little. "As your lawyer, I think it's best if I handle this alone." "Okay, I understand you want to keep things calm in there," I said. Jag pushed me back down into my seat. "Hang tight. I'll be done in about 30 minutes, maybe an hour." With that, she stepped into the courtroom. I brought some study materials with me, but I couldn't focus. 20 minutes passed, and I was feeling anxious. 45 minutes went by, and I was getting bored. So I called Ileana on my phone. "How's it going?" she asked after I told her where I was. "Are you okay?" "I feel like I'm waiting to learn my fate." "What about Amy? Have you seen her?" I looked around quickly. "Nope. My soon-to-be ex-wife is nowhere to be found. My lawyer hinted that Amy might be avoiding the situation." "Really?" Ileana said, surprised. "Yeah, I bet she's off somewhere starting fresh," I replied. "Have you always been this naive?" "Oh, come on, Bill," Ileana laughed. "It's just that Amy hasn't updated her website since she left the hospital." "Ileana, why are you still checking on Amy? You need to focus on your own life. Plus, I bet Amy has already moved on. Honestly, I wish her well." Just then, Jag came out of the courtroom, so I said goodbye to Ileana. As Jag walked towards me, I noticed her skipping. I had never seen a lawyer skip like that before. "Bill, you should buy a lottery ticket because today is your lucky day," she exclaimed, pulling me into a hug. "I thought I was in the wrong courtroom. The judge I mentioned." She couldn't believe what happened. Not only did she dismiss all of Amy's demands, but Amy had to pay for things like getting utilities turned on. I stared in disbelief. "You're serious, right?" Jag beamed at me. "Yes, I really am, and it gets even better. Amy must pay all the legal fees, including court costs. And the big news? Amy has to give you support for a year and a half, based on half your rent and utilities." I was overwhelmed and needed to sit down. Jag shared how quiet the courtroom had gone while everyone was amazed. This judge addressed Amy's lawyers, telling them how Amy was not treating the situation fairly. Funny enough, they might have to check the audio recording for the official record. The judge's reporter was so shocked she forgot to take notes. Just then, the bailiff popped his head out and signaled for me. "Sir, the judge wants to see you in her office." Jag wanted to come with me, but the bailiff raised his hand. "Just you, please, without your lawyer." Jag turned me to face her. "Bill, I don't know what's going on, but this is unusual." She glanced at the impatient bailiff. "Listen to me carefully," she whispered. "Speak as little as you can. Nod or shake your head if needed. Keep your answers simple, like yes, Your Honor, and no, Your Honor. Understand?" I nodded. The bailiff cleared his throat. "Let's go. The judge doesn't like to wait." I entered a lovely office with wooden walls. The judge, an older, kind lady, was signing papers at her desk. I looked around and saw her robe hanging on the wall along with diplomas and awards. The judge finished with her clerk and turned to face me. I was taken aback. The last time I saw her was from a distance. She stood on the zoo bridge, looking down at me in fear while wild African-painted dogs tried to get to me. At that moment, I was holding her only grandchild and doing my best to keep us safe from the animals. It took me a moment to understand what was happening. Then the judge walked over and gave me a hug. She held on for a second, then stepped back. "It's so nice to finally meet you, Bill. Can I call you Bill?" Still surprised, I remembered what Jag had said, so I nodded. The judge took me to a small seating area with a sofa and a coffee table. After I sat down, she poured coffee and handed me a cup before taking one for herself. "I hope I didn't scare you too much, Bill." I shook my head. "As you can see, I kept my maiden name even after I got married. I never got to thank you properly for what you did for my grandson." Opening a thick file on her lap, she said, "I see you don't have kids. Do you want to have them someday, Bill?" "Sure. I mean, yes, Your Honor. There's no need to be so formal. I raised 4 children, but this is my only grandchild. Let me share something about being a grandparent. It's different from being a parent. You think mother bears protect their cubs? Grandparents feel even more protective than that." She closed the file. "We grandparents are experienced, care deeply, and won't be easily persuaded to change our minds. We just want what's best for our grandkids. I love my children, but for my little grandson, I would do anything to keep him safe." I nodded, and the judge took a sip of her coffee. "Bill, what you did to save my grandson was truly brave. You know that, right?" I nodded again. Someone mentioned that to me in the hospital right after it happened, Your Honor." The judge smiled. "There is nothing I can do to repay you. I don't know what was going through your mind when you jumped in, but I'm glad you did. No words can express my gratitude for your brave actions." I felt speechless, staring at the file on her lap. The judge placed my file on her desk and stood up. "I hope you will come to our family's gathering soon, but you don't need an invitation. You are always welcome at my home. I know everyone is excited to meet you." She took my hand. "Speaking of meetings, I know a group of young professional women who would love to meet a man like you." That evening, Ileana and some friends gathered at my place to celebrate my new independence. I told Jag she could handle the things the judge wanted from Amy. I just wanted us to pick up our things and go our separate ways, wherever Amy ended up. I enjoyed spending time with these people. Even though I was older than the veterans, they seemed to have so much more life experience from their time in service. After the zoo event, they gave me the nickname Bone, because of the way dogs chew on bones. Despite our differences, they definitely drank more than I could. It was late, but Ileana and Dead-Eye Jane, who had short blonde hair, were still enjoying drinks. I was amazed at how much Ileana could drink without any signs of feeling it. I wondered how she managed it. "Hey, Ileana!" shouted a guy in a Marine shirt who was playing a video game with one hand. "How much do you need to drink before we can have some peace?" "I'll show you a good time." Ileana tossed a lemon at him. "I'm not sure. It would take a lot before you let Bone out of this chat." "Hey, keep me out of this," I said while I gathered car keys. I was off work that evening, and there was no class the next day. Everyone could stay here or call a cab. I would make sure nobody got into trouble. "Of course I'm keeping you out of it," he replied playfully, going back to the video game. I stifled a yawn. I was having fun but felt tired. A lot had happened that day. Everyone seemed to be enjoying themselves without needing my help, so I headed to my room and fell into bed. I think I was asleep before my head hit the pillow. I awoke to a warm feeling on my lips. It was dark, and it took me a moment to remember where I was. When I reached for the lamp, gentle hands guided me back down. Her presence made me feel a longing I hadn't felt for a long time. The ringing of my phone woke me up. As I reached for my cell, I heard the sound of water running in the shower. I felt more relaxed and refreshed than I had in a long time. "Hello?" I murmured into the phone. "Bill, you amazing person." A loud voice boomed through the phone, making me hold it away from my ear. It was my boss, the bakery owner. "Is everything okay?" I asked. "I'm off today, but I can come in if you need me." "Yes, everything is great, and it's all thanks to you." "All right, but I'm a bit confused. Bill, I have a new contract to supply our baked goods to ACME Limited. We've been trying to work with them for ages. ACME Limited. That name sounded familiar. New business is good, sir. Who is ACME Limited? Come on, Bill. It's the biggest supplier of food for restaurants in the eastern U.S. and Canada. I'm talking about everything. Hotels, amusement parks, military bases. The deal to provide bread rolls to the cruise ships coming to port will almost double our business. That's great news, but I'm not sure how I fit into this, I said. Well, Bill, we are still working out the details. There are 3 main requirements. First, we need to meet or exceed the quality standards. Second, we need to be competitive in price. And third, you, Bill, must be the main contact person for all bakeries working with ACME Limited. This is crucial and cannot be changed. I looked for my wallet while he continued talking. What did you do, Bill? Save the owner's cat from a tree? I took out a simple white business card I had received at the hospital from a friend's grandfather. It read, ACME Limited, on the top, with founder, CEO, and board chairman below it. I stared at the card as if it were the most important thing in the world. Bill, are you there? My boss's voice pulled me back to reality. Sorry, sir, I zoned out for a moment. Juggling school and work is tough. Forget about that now, he interrupted loudly. Starting now, you are off the night shift and a full-time student. But I can't just quit working, sir. My car is broken. Money is not your concern, he interrupted again. Today, you are a junior VP and will become a full VP when you graduate. We can't have a big company like ACME Limited with just entry-level workers. You'll also have a company car. Choose something nice, but not too big. Plus, there's an expense account for your studies, which is now very important. I was wide awake, pinching myself to make sure I wasn't dreaming. Thank you so much, sir. I don't know how to express my gratitude. Don't say anything, Bill. He laughed. Just study hard. Buy your teachers something nice. Everything is on the company card. Come in when you can, and we'll get the paperwork done. After he hung up, I stared at the phone, hoping I wouldn't wake from this dream. Just then, the shower stopped, and my friend stepped out wrapped in a towel. Leaning against the doorframe, she said, Bill, we have similar class schedules. I hate living across town, and my lease is up next semester. Since you live alone now, can I rent a room from you? If this was a dream, I never wanted to wake up. I don't think I can rent you a room, I replied. Seeing her disappointment, I pulled back the covers on the bed. But you can stay here for the same price if you want. It had been 5 years since ACME Limited partnered with us. At first, we were overwhelmed, struggling to keep up with orders. The plant's growth gave us the capacity, but running it smoothly wasn't easy. Sometimes I missed the days when I only had to worry about my small team or my school assignments. For instance, finding reliable workers was tough. Many didn't seem to care about their work or teamwork. When I realized hiring military veterans could help, I felt foolish for not thinking of it sooner. They took pride in their work and offered great advice on making things better. The veterans who came in to manage combined their education with real-life experience. I once watched one of them, a former drill instructor, explain how important it was to dress properly at work. Now that I have my MBA, I still walk around the plant and talk to workers. It keeps me connected to them. I visit the stores we supply whenever I can. Picking up something from the list helps me check on our products. Today, I was in a grocery store buying muffins when I accidentally bumped into a cart near a stock clerk filling the lower shelves. Excuse me, I said, and the clerk looked up and we made eye contact. It was Amy. She looked thinner than before, but I forced a smile. Hi, Amy, you look different. Amy stood up and pointed at me. You knew. I returned the muffins to the shelf. Keeping my expression neutral, I said, Hello to you too, Amy. I turned to leave, heading toward the exit. Just outside, I felt a firm grip on my arm. I turned to see Amy beside me. You knew, she repeated. I shrugged and gave a small smile. We both had our secrets, didn't we? I looked at her hand on my arm. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have somewhere to be. Her expression softened as she dropped her hand. Can we talk, please, Bill? I really need to speak with you. After everything we've been through, can we do that? I glanced at my watch and pointed to a restaurant across the street with outdoor seating. All right, Amy, let's head over there. As we walked, Amy took off her apron, and I sent a text about our new location. My therapist helped me realize you knew about my online activities, Amy said. She looked so fragile that I worried she might drop the coffee cup she held. You know, Bill, I almost lost everything. I'm sorry to hear that, Amy. What happened? You happened, Bill. I began to have real struggles with how I saw myself. You always accepted me as I am and made me feel good. But then your comments about my appearance changed that. I started to feel insecure and desperate to change. Things spiraled out of control from there, and I eventually had to get help. Are you saying that's my fault, Amy? Amy set her coffee cup down. When I saw you with someone else, I lost it. I started to feel unworthy and was never satisfied. It became a cycle of feeling like I didn't measure up. My counselor says I need closure. She looked straight at me. Why did you do that, Bill? Why did you make me feel bad about how I looked? I held her gaze. What about you, Amy? Why did you betray my trust? I set my cup down. It wasn't a sudden thing. You chose to seek out those connections. Amy looked down at the table. I was just bored. Bored? I asked, surprised. Amy kept her gaze on the table. We were always together, Bill. We had breakfast, commuted, and shared lunches. You were a big part of my life. Then suddenly you weren't there. She paused. I went from having you by my side to barely seeing you during the day. Once you started working nights and with all your classes, it felt like we were just living together. I got really lonely. I pointed at her. Lonely, Amy? You turned to strangers? You had friends. What about spending time with them or volunteering? You could even adopt a pet for company. Bill, it wasn't like that. I did see friends initially, but they were all married, and I felt out of place. I tried going out with some of the single girls from work, but I didn't enjoy those nights. They felt shallow. I always saw myself as a loyal partner. That changed pretty quickly, I remarked. Amy sighed. Eventually, I started staying in most evenings. TV got boring and social media felt empty. Then a few coworkers mentioned a website. At first, I was surprised something like that even existed, but my curiosity got the better of me. I visited the site just to check it out. I didn't log in at first, just read posts. It felt strange, like looking into something I shouldn't. I shook my head. You could have picked something else to explore: cooking, exercise routines. Bill, I regret it every day. If I could turn back time, I'd get rid of my phone and disconnect from the internet. I could have told you that, I mumbled. Amy nodded. When I finally logged in, I got tons of chat requests immediately. I felt seen, like people actually wanted to talk to me. You mean others flattering you for their own purposes? She nodded again. I thought it was harmless. I never planned to meet anyone. Some were rude, but others were kind. I got caught up in the chat. Soon I was spending too much time there. Sounds like a healthy distraction, I said sarcastically. You didn't notice at first, Bill, but I was putting more effort into our relationship. I tried hard to connect with you before work or when you got home. But there was never enough time to fill the emptiness. Amy looked down at her hands. There was one person. He kept asking to meet. I always said no. But then I thought, what harm could come from having coffee in a public place? I convinced myself it was no different from chatting online. I told myself it didn't mean anything. But it didn't stay that way, did it? I met a few people. Nothing serious happened at first, but it confused me emotionally. I'd leave feeling unsettled. It turned into a cycle. I wasn't making good choices, Bill. You were away so much, and I just felt distant. I was working hard for us, Amy. You had everything you needed. What were you doing with your time? I never intended for it to go that far. I did let someone overstep a boundary. I felt overwhelmed. Afterward, I tried to stay away from the site, but I eventually returned. I made excuses for myself, telling myself I'd just chat and wouldn't meet anyone again. I shook my head. And yet you did. Amy's voice dropped. Yes, and I made a set of rules. I thought I was being careful. I never saw the same person more than once, stayed away from our area, met in public spots. I thought that made it okay. It wasn't okay? Amy flinched. I know that now. I was lucky nothing bad happened. I had more luck than I deserved. But it wasn't just luck that stopped me from telling you. I convinced myself it was temporary. I thought if I waited for your schedule to settle, it would all go back to normal. But it didn't, Amy. I realize that now. I deal with it every day. I thought I was in control, making my own choices. but it only drove me further from what truly mattered. I never mocked you, Bill. I just lost my way. And now? Now I wish I could take it all back. Everything. But I can't. It all made me feel ashamed, then and now. I thought I could keep that part of my life separate, but it only created distance between us. Then what happened in the hospital with Ileana? That was when everything fell apart. I saw her with you, and after finding some of her hair in our shower, I lost my cool. How could you do this to me? It's a strange reaction considering what I was doing at the time. Add that to the mind games you played with me. The idea of losing you to her made me feel very low, leading me to treatment and therapy. Now I'm divorced, stuck in a frustrating job with no health benefits, struggling to get by and accepting help from my mom. Amy leaned in closer. Bill, you never got involved with her, did you? It sounded like a statement, not a question. I took a deep breath before replying. As I told you that day, Ileana is gay. She would have been more interested in you. Amy sank back in her chair. Another mistake to add to my list. Do you still keep in touch? Oh, I see her around, I said casually. Your turn now, Bill. When you found out, why didn't you just talk to me directly? Why this? Amy said, spreading her arms wide. I paused to think. Was I wrong for how I treated Amy? I don't think so. I was deeply hurt by her actions. The trust I had was broken, making me question my self-worth and my ability to be in a relationship. Anyone will react when they are in pain. Was I responsible for Amy's struggles? That's a question for those who study behavior. Amy, your betrayal affected our marriage, my self-esteem, and every bit of trust I had. When you hurt me, I felt a lot of pain. I wanted you to understand some of that hurt. Amy spread her fingers, looking almost fragile. Well, Bill, you certainly got what you wanted. Do you feel satisfied now? I finished my coffee. I'm sorry for what you're going through, and I hope you can find a way to overcome your problems. But to answer your question, yes, I am content now. It's been hard after what happened, but looking back, I am happy. Just then, a black SUV pulled up to the curb, honking twice. Two excited boys in the back shouted, Daddy! Daddy! Hurry! Mommy said we could get ice cream. I got up from the table, pointing at the boys in the car. Get back in your seats or no ice cream. They giggled as they rolled up the window, knowing I was joking. I took a business card from my coat pocket and left it on the table. You take care now, Amy. I have to go. I gestured toward the SUV before turning back to her. Best of luck. I placed a $50 bill on top of the business card before walking away. After hugging the boys, I greeted my wife in the driver's seat. As I fastened my seatbelt, my wife tilted her head toward Amy, still sitting at the cafe. Bill, who was that woman? She looks a bit unwell. I chuckled. No one can ever say you're not direct, I replied as she pulled into traffic. That's my ex-wife, Amy. You know the story. Well, she better not think about coming back, she said, surprised. I won't let that happen. Jane's blonde hair moved as she turned to glance at Amy in the rearview mirror. Not everyone can pull off a ponytail after having twins, but Jane still looked youthful and turned heads. I laughed. Just relax, there's no competition left. You won. Turning to my sons in the back seat, I asked, Who wants ice cream? Yes, it was Jane who came into my life after the divorce. She became my roommate, my girlfriend, and my best friend. Her support helped me move on and build the family I always wanted. Ileana, now the assistant HR manager at the bakery, says I'm kidding myself, and that if Jane hadn't acted quickly, I would still be stuck in my past. Just to clarify, I helped Amy get an interview at the bakery. Despite their history, Ileana hired her because she was qualified. Amy has returned as a line supervisor with a good salary and benefits that allow her to continue her therapy. As for me, I still believe in being someone who takes initiative and acts thoughtfully. Of course, I could be, as Ileana says, kidding myself.